The restoration of a beautiful little Swedish-made axe. An axe that I found on a campsite some time ago on a canoe camping adventure in the Canadian backcountry. Today, I'm going to go over this axe. I'm going to restore it. I'm going to utilize a rust removal system that is new to me and see how that works out. I'm going to put a mirror edge on it so that it cuts like a knife. And also, I have a fresh piece of hickory to rehandle it with. But I got something very special planned for this piece of hickory. Stick around. Let's go do this. Welcome to Open Air Outdoors. Welcome to my shop. What do I have? A beautiful old camp axe that I found on a campsite. And it's surprisingly not too bad as far as rust on the head of it. But the handle is heavily checked. Look at that, heavy checks, all grayed up from being sun bleached. So this axe was actually, I plucked it right out of the moss. So one side of the axe was laying in the moss, was embedded in the moss, absorbing moisture. And the other side of the axe was exposed to direct sunlight. And also the axe handle has developed a slight warp. I would not trust it. You see a heavy check on there. This is not to be trusted. Therefore, we're going to be replacing the handle. But first, we're going to start with the business end of things. You see right here, made in Sweden. And on the top side here, there's remnants of blue paint. And if I flip it around, there is a, what appears to be 2 1/4, maybe 2 1/2. We'll see once I get rid of this rust. That rust is heavy enough that it's actually 3-dimensional. Now there is no maker's mark anywhere that I could see. So if anybody has any idea who is the maker of this axe, leave it in the comment section down below. I would love to know what it is. So clearly this axe handle was an issue to its previous owner, whoever that individual was. 4 different metal wedges pulled out of that head. So obviously there was an issue while it was being used, or it was in use. Okay, the next step is very simple. A little plastic bucket, a little tray, and then I have my beautiful Swedish axe. Just simply put it in the tray, and we're going to pour in the vinegar. I'm making sure the axe head is completely submerged in vinegar. let it sit. I'm going to revisit this axe head in 24 hours from now. Okay, so it's been about 20 some hours, I'm going to say, and there's been an obvious reaction. I'm going to take the camera, I'm going to pan, I'm going to show you my little container of vinegar. It's quite cool what's going on. So got lots of bubbling and foaming, but the cool part is we have the exact outline of the axe head in the bucket. Now this is a first for me. I said that earlier in the video that I've never used vinegar before for this process, and so it's very much new territory for me. So if I scratch it with my my fingernail, it's coming off. The rust is coming off. Actually, I'm scratching the area where it said 2, and I believe it's 2 1/4, but it was too much rust to know. And you know what? It's that rust is coming off with my fingernail. Oh yeah. Look at that. I can, there's some of that three-dimensional rust right here, very heavy. We'll see what we can do with that, but definitely these results are quite nice. Now I can clearly see it is in fact 2 1/4 pounds. So there was a couple of spots of heavy three-dimensional rust, so that would have been the side where the axe was laying in the moss and was absorbing that moisture from the ground while the top was being sun bleached. Now there's still a little bit of some specks of paint. You can see some blue paint, and also interestingly enough, you can clearly see a dark gray. So I'm wondering if originally this axe would have been painted blue all the way to where this line is. That's what I'm thinking. This might have been all paint, and then the edge would have been exposed steel, obviously. And now the cleaning process is not over, because now I am going to utilize a tip I received from a subscriber, and that's to use baking soda to clean the axe. And the baking soda is for the purpose of neutralizing the acid of the vinegar. So I'm going to give it a good strong cleaning. Thanks for the tip, Mark. I'll bring you guys back on after I'm done cleaning this axe head, and we're going to continue on with the next step of the process. And you can clearly see the damage here from abuse. Look at that side, very bad, heavy curls. So probably what I'm going to do, because it's so heavy, I'm going to lightly hit it on the grinder before I move on to using the file. I personally love using file. I love file work because it's so precise, and quite honestly, it's relaxing to me to just be filing away. So let's get started. Step number I don't know what. Okay, we are looking outstanding with the new improved axe head. But now we're moving on to sizing up the handle. Nice piece of hickory. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So what I'd like to do with all of my axes is I take a round file and I like to file the edge of the eye here. Well, I don't want a sharp edge. If I take my handle and I put the axe on and it peels wood off the handle as it's going in, it's too sharp. So I like to do what's called breaking the corner. So right around the edge, round file, give it a little shot, chamfer the edge. Now I may have mentioned earlier that I want to do something a little bit different, maybe even a little bit special with this axe. And I was thinking of the wedge for when it's time to mount that head. And what I want to do is use some wedges that I'm going to make myself out of black walnut. And what I have here is I have some scrap pieces of black walnut, and I'm going to lay this down on the bench. And these scrap pieces come from the most beautiful paddle I've ever seen in my life. And the maker of this paddle, his name is Gord over at Naturally Naked Paddle Company, made this custom paddle for me. And when I picked it up, while I was there, I grabbed the leftovers from my paddle. And this is a paddle that has an oiled finish. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's what I want my wedges to be made out of. I want to utilize this black walnut, and I specifically said wedges. So there's a method that I'm not familiar with, like I don't know what it's called, I don't know where it originates, but I've seen it on the internet. And that's where an axe handle, you have a wedge that goes in, and then you have a cross wedge. And I want to make my wedges out of the darkest part of my canoe paddle blank. And when that's oiled, I'm going to have a super rich dark contrast of the wedges against the hickory. Time has passed and so has a snowstorm, but now it's time to get back to the task at hand. I went around all over town looking for an axe handle because I like to put my eyes on it before I buy it, and truly I could not find anything within all of the hardware stores and the tractor supply stores. I could not find anything of my liking. They were all junkers. So I ended up going on the internet and I purchased this axe handle from Council Tool. For those of you who are aware, there's the grain orientation, and this is what happens when you buy something of quality product. There's actually a person has looked at it and confirmed that this was a good handle to be sold out. Now, versus something that's just grinded out by automated machines and dumped into a hopper, packaged up and sent out, and an unsuspecting consumer will buy a piece of hickory that is complete completely useless. The old one was originally a 26 inch, I believe. Yeah, 26 inch. I chose to go with a little bit shorter handle, which is 24, because this is going to be a pack axe for me. Right, I'm going to be using this, and it's going to get slid into a pack sack. I'm going to carry it with me in the backcountry when I'm out doing my canoe camping adventures. So I wanted to keep it a little bit on the smaller side. So let's see how it fares out for the fit, the dry fit. The eye of the axe is a little bit large for this handle. However, I do have a lot to work with. There's a shoulder coming up here, and I got at least an inch where I can shape it to make it slide down and do a proper fit. If I give you a visual, you can see the gap right there. So it's not a very perfect fit. The odds of that happening, having a perfect fit, are very slim. You usually have to work it, and let's do that next. And also I'll be working my wedges that I made earlier. Now, because I don't have a bandsaw, I had to get a little bit creative on how to make my wedges. A little bit of ingenuity, anything can be overcome. Hammer handles, shovel handles, and axe handle, but truly the proper terminology is this is a haft. And what I'm doing here today, I am rehafting this axe. That's because it was already hafted once before. This is a rehafting of an axe. So my next step is I'm just going to do a pencil line. Now cut off the excess, or not all of it. I'm going to leave it proud because I'm going to recut it again near the end. But I need to remove what is totally unnecessary. So let's start with that, and also we'll figure out where, with just some measurements, and figure out how deep the kerf is going to be. And my kerf is only going to be halfway through the eye, and that's not enough, so I'm gonna have to cut my kerf down. I want to be 2/3 to 3/4 of the way down. I'm gonna go more on the, I'm gonna lean more towards the 3/4. By drilling a hole, I prevent that when I put my cross wedge in, which will be this guy here, once I drive this guy in, it's not going to cause a split going down the haft. So that's the idea behind that. All right, I think I am pretty much ready to pound that in. Now typically this is inverted, and then you strike it with a hammer on top, and it will drive the handle into the head. There's another method I'm going to show you right now, something I've been using for years and years and years with all kinds of ball peen hammers, you name it, and that is to simply grab the axe or whatever hammer I'm using, rehandling, and just tap it down. Let's do that next. Does not take a whole lot of reworking. It's amazing how just a little bit of sanding and scraping go a long ways. I have to duplicate the profile inside here with my wedge. So my wedge is going to go inside here, and I have to profile, sand that down to profile both ends. So one wedge will be profiled down here, and the other wedge will be profiled for that up there. All right, so I sized up all my wedges. They're trimmed down to size after a bunch of calculations and measurements. And now it's time for the linseed oil. I want to pour some of that right down inside there. And this will do a couple of different things. One is going to preserve the wood. And another thing is it's going to lubricate the wood so that when my wedge pieces go in, they should go in a little bit easier. I do have a little piece of hardwood, a little block, just to tap with. Time to cut off the trimmings, and then we're going to look at the rest of the handle. This handle is going to get a light sanding before it gets a final treatment. So next step, I'm going to use actually a hacksaw because I want a fine-tooth blade to cut the top off the excess. And I just want to mention, I don't know if you noticed, but I'll mention it. I'm not using any specialty tools whatsoever. All this is done with just basic tools. And that's the way I like it. All right, let's move on to that next step. I got to fix that. That cleaned it up, looks a lot better. But now let's address the rest of this handle. I have something special for that, and it requires coffee. Going back some time ago, when I rebuilt this particular axe, I had made my own sheath. On this particular build, I chose to go the lazy route, and I Amazoned a new one. Let's put this sheath on and have one final look at how my Swedish made axe found on a campsite turned out.